Hey guys, real quick, before we get into it, do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. That way you don't miss out on any of the tea. Thanks.
Yes.
Hi, Charles.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
I am doing great. You seem very chipper. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Having a
Good.
lovely afternoon.
Yes.
Looking forward to our chat.
Absolutely. I love our chats so much.
As do I. So I have a question for you.
Oh, I have an answer for you.
What is your most noted memory of Baton Rouge?
Of Baton Rouge. Okay. I know we talked about New Orleans a lot, so let's talk about Baton Rouge. So two memories stand out for me. So I haven't spent much time up there, but when I did spend time up there was when my brother was in college at LSU.
Okay.
Right, so that was really the first time, and that was more me getting to know Baton Rouge, like the college town part, right? Which I lived in Athens for UGA to kind of compare and contrast like the college town experience. That was cool. But as a kid growing up, my dad's grandparents lived in Denham Springs, which is
so right outside of Baton Rouge. Yeah.
Right. And I always, as a kid, remember driving up there, and this is funny as an urban studies professor, like always being in Baton Rouge, that was so different from New Orleans, but I never understood why.
Yeah.
And now as an academic, like it fascinates me. But as a kid, just always intrigued about like what this place is. And then my third memory, I just thought of it, in the dorms when I was at Tulane my freshman year, one of my friends, it was a co-ed dorm by floor, so like girls and boys lived on the same floor. She was from Point Capee Parish.
Yeah, Point Capee Parish, yeah.
And went there a few times to kind of see through her lens. So my memories of Baton Rouge are always kind of like secondary to people who live there and kind of seeing it through their eyes. What about you?
Ooh, I think one of my sort of, it's my own independent memory of Baton Rouge is, I don't know if you guys did this when you were in 7th grade, or was it 8th grade?
Don't you say the
we would do the big like annual field trip
to LSU.
And go to the campus and visit. So that was really like the first time that I went to Baton Rouge, and I have family that lives just outside of North Baton Rouge. So it was the first time like really going to like Baton Rouge, just like for
that was 7th or 8th grade at Christ
I can't
the King.
remember if it was 7th or if
but
it was 8th grade,
right?
But we did that trip.
I did that too.
But yeah, I have
That's
family that lives just outside of North Baton Rouge. Both of my grandparents, 2 of my mom's siblings all went to Southern University.
Okay.
So I can remember when my aunt and uncle were students, because we don't have a huge age gap. So I was a kid with my grandmother, like going from Opelousas on Highway 190.
How far is Opelousas to Baton Rouge?
It's probably like 45-minute hour drive.
Do you have to drive, if you're going from Opelousas to New Orleans, you have to drive to Baton Rouge, right?
So like, yes and no. You could go from New Orleans to Lafayette on Highway 90 and like bypass Baton Rouge. And then like once you get to Lafayette, get on I-49 and go to Opelousas. You can go, of course, I-10 through BatonRouge. Okay. And then you can go Highway 190, which also goes through Baton Rouge. You can also go Airline Highway.
That's right, Airline. Yeah,
that goes from
forget
New Orleans.
About Airline.
So there's lots of thoroughfares that lead from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. But yeah, my first sort of like, I'm just in Baton Rouge for me was that field trip to LSU. But yeah, today's episode, as we digress into our family memories, is about Baton Rouge, but specifically development in North Baton Rouge.
Give us kind of a context, because we talk about New Orleans a lot. So it's kind of a little, and we've talked about Shreveport and a little bit of Lafayette. But why are we talking about Baton Rouge? And explain like the geography of North Baton Rouge.
So we're talking about Baton Rouge because it is the capital of our state, which is like, I think, very important and very significant. And so when we talk about North Baton Rouge, it's actually the portion of Baton Rouge that's north of, as we just mentioned, Airline Highway. And so it is an area of the city that is close to Southern University's campus. I think when a lot of people outside of the state think of Baton Rouge, they think of LSU. But the other major university there is Southern University. In addition to being an undergrad university, they also have Southern's Law School. So very significant part of the higher education system here in our state over at Southern University. And so that's an area of the city that is, near the university. And I think a lot of times when we think of proximity to a university, you think of a college town and all the things that come with it, right? Shopping, restaurants that are going to be frequented and utilized by students, but also other members of the community. Mm-hmm. And what's been a little bit different in Northern Baton Rouge is that we have seen, instances of businesses moving out, things closing, and really a need for like revitalization and redevelopment there. And that is one of the things that is actually happening. It's pretty exciting that there is a $50 million development that is coming called the Boulevard, spelled
BLVD.
Yes, thank you.
All capital letters.
No vowels needed.
No vowels needed.
They couldn't afford them with $50 million. But it's really exciting to see, this huge development that's going to be coming to the area, Harvest Fresh, which is a national grocer. I'm not familiar with them, but
the renderings are beautiful.
I was going to say, I'm like, the development looks really cool. And so they'll be coming. It'll be their first location here in the state of Louisiana. I think when you look at other portions of the city of Baton Rouge, so if you look kind of like around Blue Bonnet and some of the development around the Mall of Louisiana, mm-hmm. right? Like you have seen these other pockets of the city of Baton Rouge. Oh my God, Perkins.
Forgot about that. I was like Perkins Row.
Yeah. You see these other pockets of the city that have really seen just like this explosion of growth in like the retail, commercial, and residential kind of mixed use space. And you haven't seen quite as much of that in the northern part of the city. I think some of the same issues we've seen in like other cities, right? The out migration of people and residents to either other parts of the city or to like other parts of the surrounding region. I think that there is kind of a lack of investment in that area because it is a predominantly Black area of the city, like if we're going to be completely honest about it. And so I think to see a development of this size and scale, right? Because it's one thing of, okay, well, we have this like one new grocery store that's coming, or, we're going to like redo this one little space, but to say, okay, we're going to do a full build out of this development. It's something that's new and fresh that's coming, I think is really exciting to see in an area that hasn't necessarily seen the same types of investment in development as other parts of the city. And again, when you think about the fact that like this is our state capital, mm-hmm. right? You want to see the like heart and seat of our state government in a like growing, flourishing area, and not just like this one little piece, but like the whole thing, right? Baton Rouge also really kind of sits at a really interesting spot in that like people can come in from New Orleans, but then you also have like proximity to the North Shore, right? Covington, Mandeville, Hammond, all those places kind of like converging.
That's a very fast growing part of the state too.
Correct, right?
So between the two cities.
When you think of, areas of the state that are seeing like significant population growth, there has been so much growth in those areas. So to see that growth starting to translate in Baton Rouge, I think is really important. Mm-hmm. And I think in general, from, the standpoint of looking at the state more broadly, whenever you see national brands that are saying, this is a new market that I want to enter, I think it speaks to long-term, the vision that people are seeing for a community, right? For someone to say, yeah, I want to be the first one that's there is, I think, really important and really a testament to what they think is going to happen in the future. And that is growth and development and worth investing in. Yeah. So I think that's really exciting to see. I think it's particularly in Baton Rouge is exciting to see.
Particularly North Baton Rouge.
And particularly in North Baton Rouge is exciting to see because that is, again, a community that's, buoyed up by the university. We want to see like the communities around our universities grow and thrive. One of the things that we've talked about consistently on the podcast is our schools and our universities. And so we want to see those communities growing, thriving, increasing population, having things that attract people in, and say, hey, I don't just want to be in Baton Rouge to be at LSU. I want to be in Baton Rouge because I want to be at Southern University, right? Or I'm looking for job opportunities and like housing, and like Baton Rouge is an option, And so I think growth, development, also like we kind of talked about this in our New Orleans East episode, right? How much space a city has to move, right? So when you look at certain portions of Baton Rouge, it's like, I don't know how you can put another thing here. I don't know how you can build another thing here. So I have a question
for you, and I've been thinking about this, and you're leading right into it. And if I'm wrong, let me know. Would you make the argument that North Baton Rouge is Baton Rouge's version of New Orleans East?
I definitely think,
or at least parallels,
that there are some parallels there. I would say one of the big differences, right, is like New Orleans East is still very urban, right? Even though it is has a suburban feel because it's lots of subdivisions and things. Its proximity to the city and surrounding cities, I think, makes it very different than even Baton Rouge as a city, right? Like what is around Baton Rouge is still mostly pretty rural in a way that like it's not quite the same. So I do think that is a big difference when you sort of talk about like regional draw and regional pull and what thoroughfares are near there, right? As you start to travel north, you're getting to significantly more rural communities versus like New Orleans East. If you travel, if you keep going east, you hit Slidell, right? Like it's a smaller city, but it's still a city. So I think that is different. But certainly with regards to population, with regards to deliberate and intentional divestment, those are definitely parallels and similarities that I think you see between New Orleans East and Northern Baton Rouge.
So the reason I asked is, and when it was announced of this $50 million development, which by the way, it's not going to be just a grocery store, a coffee shop, space it, and that's it reminds me of
I was like, to your point of Perkins Row, it's like kind of like a baby Perkins, right?
Yes.
It's going to have the grocery store, it's going to have some restaurants, it's going to have other retail spaces,
which is cool,
and really kind of this like mixed use community space that I think is really cool.
Now, another parallel that's really interesting to me is when I was finishing my dissertation on New Orleans East, and we've talked about this a little bit, grocery store access, right? And New Orleans East residents a lot want a Rouse's, which is like the default grocery store. North Baton Rouge at this time was opening up their first Rouse's. And that was a big deal because in the same way that New Orleans just kind of looked over for a location, North Baton Rouge was. And not only did North Baton Rouge get a Rouse's, it was a new build. It wasn't
repurposing an existing building, right?
And that was a signifier from Rouse's as a company that we are coming in this community, we're investing in a new building, right? Which has now led to this second development, in North Baton Rouge.
And I think both of those things are like
New Orleans East is getting a Rouse's on Shefferman Tour. So I'm kind of seeing these similar parallels.
These interesting barometers of, sort of the appetite for
good appetite.
New dollars, for new companies to move into a community and to move into a space. And I think that's like such a good point you made about the Rouse's in North Baton Rouge being a new build, because, one of the things we have seen, especially in the grocery landscape here in the greater New Orleans area, right, is, things are closing, people are leaving the market, you're getting stores that maybe weren't necessarily here before taking over those spaces. So specifically Winn-Dixie leaving the market, and we're seeing Aldi come in. We didn't previously have Aldi's here.
Absolutely.
We're now seeing, Rouse's take over some of those old Winn-Dixie spaces, but that is something that's really significant that happened there, right? They didn't say, oh, well, like this thing closed and we'll come move into this space.
Exactly.
They specifically built a new building there. And I think that really speaks volumes to the economic shift that we're seeing.
It gives a permission structure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It typically starts with like more, local regional chains, but when you get national chains want a reassurance, if you will, to be successful. So when Rouse's entered, that was a permission structure.
Yeah.
Right. and a signifier of what else could come. And you know, what's interesting is that when these stores open, and this is another interesting example, is on the West Bank of Marrero is a new Rouse's on the intersection of Ames and Lapalco, which also kind of has a history of being underinvested, that part of Marrero, right? And what I find interesting is that when these stores open up, they're very successful. And it indicates like...
You mean people need groceries?
Correct. And then I'm sitting there and the cynical part of me is like, y'all could have been doing this for years.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like one of those like, I'm frustrated it took so long, but I'm glad it's here now. But it's like, it's almost as if when it's successful, it just proves the point that you could have been investing.
You could have been doing this all along.
And you didn't, for many reasons, right? So it's exciting to see that tide turn.
Absolutely.
Of viewing the worthiness of investing in these communities that have been so long disinvested in.
Yeah.
Right? And North Baton Rouge is a really good example of that tide.
Especially, again, when you see how much development has happened in other parts of the city, to kind of continue to just sort of allow this to sort of flounder, and instead of putting that same focus and investment there, I think seeing again that shift of like Rouse's comes, all right, now we have a national chain coming. Okay, now it's not just the grocery store build, but it's going to be, you know, other commercial infrastructure. It really is a testament to what is going to happen in the very near future, right? Like people don't come in and drop 50 mil on a development.
Right.
On a chance, right? Like, you know, that is that signifier that there's going to be more growth. You know, hopefully this also means, you know, more businesses and more opportunity. Again, like we've got 2 universities in Baton Rouge. So when we talk about things like the brain drain from Louisiana, you know, what other opportunities does this kind of development create that is going to, you know, retain people, not just in Baton Rouge, but, you know, the state more broadly. You know, what other opportunities does this create for other communities? And I think especially to, you know, kind of as I mentioned just a couple minutes ago, when you look at some of these surrounding communities and you really start to get more into the rural parts of Louisiana, you know, how are we creating opportunities, especially as our agricultural landscape changes and folks that were maybe working in the ag space or in oil and gas, those same opportunities don't exist. You know, like how are we creating a community that like is right for, hey, yeah, I want to come and move my tech company here, or like, yeah, we want to come put, you know, maybe not a headquarters, but a regional, you know, a regional office here. You know, like there's so much opportunity for that. You know, the one thing I will say is, if we're going to grow in Baton Rouge, we need to work on the traffic.
Yes, you are so not wrong on that issue, y'all. I don't know if you're not familiar with Baton Rouge. The traffic is
infamous,
an established fact at this point.
It's
maddening. So I 1000% agree with you. But you know, one final point on this is what frustrates me about all this stuff. I'm talking about like economic development in underserved communities. Louisiana politicians know our population problem, losing population, not really even growing, whatever. These are ways to grow population. Right. And it's like, it always seems to be like the mark that politicians miss. Like, no, like it actually does a disservice to not invest in communities like New Orleans East, North Baton Rouge. Because to our point, those are actually areas that have the room to grow. Right.
They have the physical space.
So it becomes like a paradox. Like, no, like you need to actually do that in order to grow your population, of which is a persistent and pervasive problem in Louisiana. This is how we go about doing that.
Yeah. To get influx growth, right?
Correct.
Because like we have, you know, small organic growth, right? Babies are born. We had more babies born than people died this past year. But yeah, to really and truly get that influx of people saying, I am deliberately and intentionally moving here. The quality of life, you know, is at a level that is comfortable. And like, this is a place that I want to be. It really is creating those sorts of communities, environments, and investing.
And it benefits everyone. It benefits Southern students. It benefits actual residents, everyone in between.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I agree.
So I think that's really exciting. I'm very happy that project is moving forward. I hope to see more of those types of projects in other communities
that
have that similar history. One day we can do an episode about, Lafayette functions that way to a certain extent.
Yeah. North Lafayette
right?
is also...
I keep thinking of these similar, and I see news stories about development in Lafayette where it's happening and not happening, right? Yeah. So it's like the parallels are there across our cities in Louisiana. So, it's exciting when you start to see the narrative change a little bit.
Definitely. And when you start to see the dollars actually come in.
That too.
There's we really want to see redevelopment and we're going to invest. But when you actually see the dollars come in, when you see the groundbreaking, when you see the cranes.
Man, groundbreakings are like a psychological boost. Like, oh man, it's happening.
It's really happening. Yeah, it's really happening.
Cool. Well, we'll continue to follow this.
Absolutely.
It's I agree with you. It's important to talk about our state capital, right?
Yeah,
because that's where major decisions are made and the seat of government and 2 major universities there.
Yeah.
Right. So good topic. I appreciate this conversation.
Well, Charles, I always appreciate your insight, and we also appreciate your insight. So please follow us on all socials. We are LA Pelican Briefs. We want to hear your feedback. We want to hear your suggestions. And until next time, bye.
Until next time. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Pelican Briefs.
If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
If you are loving the show, you can help us keep the conversation going by supporting us on Patreon.
Your contribution on Patreon ensures we can continue producing quality content you love.
Click the link in the description to become a patron today.
Until next time, this is Pelican Briefs.